Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle and triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. This is the Her Version podcast, and we are built on storytelling. The storytelling that we do is under the impression that we know that our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I am speaking with an amazing woman named Fran Gallaher. Fran is an executive coach who uses intuition to bring through crucial, life-changing information to allow clients to earn more, make decisions with less stress, and greater success. Yes, and shorten the time it takes to do both, even better. Fran works with an intersection of intuition, spirituality, and the practical. In her sessions, clients become aware of the actual physical sensations beneath the labels we give for our felt sense, guiding them to unpack the habituated, conditioned narrative of their lives to shorten the coaching process and make it extraordinarily personal, effective, and powerful. Yes, Fran, how are you today?
I am well. I'm so excited and grateful to be here, Sabrina.
Yes, thank you. I so appreciate all of the ladies who take the time out of their day to sit down, share some nuggets of information with the Her Version audience and and the world. So I appreciate you being here, taking some time. Tell us where you're from. Tell us what you do.
Well, I live outside of Denver, Colorado. I'm born and raised, however, in St. Louis, Missouri. And I've been here a long, long time, though. What I do is I work with people using my intuition so I can access information that an ordinary coach or therapist may not be able to access.
Fantastic. How long have you been in the industry?
I think since 1999.
Wow, 1999. You don't hear that year anymore.
No, you don't.
Back in the day, that was the year.
Yeah, there was all that about Y2K, and there was concern that the world was going to end in terms of technology, and the opposite happened, didn't it? Technology just took off more and more.
Yes, 100%. Well, listen, I want to jump right in. I love to hear stories. This whole podcast is built on storytelling. So I would love to kind of jump in and hear your journey, the pivot that you went through, or the pivots that you've gone through in order to get from where you were to where you are now. If you want to go ahead and jump in.
Thanks. So when I was a child, there was a knight in armor who stood outside my bedroom. And I don't know when I found out that nobody else could see this knight in armor, only I could see this knight in armor, but that's one of my early memories. And my mother taught me to make my bed, and she couldn't understand why I didn't do it, but it was because I had to run past the knight in armor to get into my room and then get back out. I grew up seeing and hearing voices in the wallpaper, faces in the wallpaper. I lived in a world of my own in many ways because my mother was, I think now that I look back, I think she was suffering from depression. And she put my brother and I in a playroom, and we spent a lot of time on our own. I was not allowed to ask questions. I was expected to perform at the dinner table at night. So my dad thought that I had an amazing imagination, and I could see into worlds and universes. I still don't understand what it was that I saw, and I had no words for it. I had no context for it. But because I couldn't discuss it with anyone, there was no one to tell me that it wasn't real. So I believe that's how I was able to preserve my intuition. By the time I was 13, however, my mother was very destructive toward me a lot of the time. And I, again, lived in my own world. And I decided that if I just didn't have emotions, everything would be okay. So I attempted to obliterate my emotions and dedicate myself to logic, math, and science. It didn't work, but it did make me one of the unusual intuitives in that I'm also logical and I don't sound like a lunatic, which is really easy to sound like a lunatic when you're highly intuitive. So I ended up reaching my middle 20s feeling absolutely bereft because I had denied so much of who I was. And I had to go back and rehabilitate my emotions, my ability to be in contact with myself and rehabilitate my intuition. And because I went through that whole process, I now know that teaching other people to access, develop, and use their intuition, it's life-changing in so many ways, but one of them is it's the best way for us to develop a relationship with our inner selves and become more authentic, especially to ourselves.
I want to ask a question. What is your thought process on everybody is an intuitive? It's just they haven't tapped into it yet.
Well, I think there are some people who might be neurologically atypical, and they might have either more connection to intuition or less. And anyone who is not able to access their emotions won't be able to access the intuition, because I believe the intuition runs on the same circuits that the emotions run on. And as we allow ourselves to become more adept with our emotions, everyone is terrified that that will mean they'll be more emotional, but the opposite happens. As we allow our emotions to arise, peak, and dissipate, we can actually get in touch with the energy beneath the emotions. And that energy is there for either peace and acceptance or for taking action. So that's one of the ways I coach my clients, is for them to begin to use their emotions as flags on their experience to inform what they like and don't like, but not to become emotional. But there are about 4 people who cannot access intuition. One of them is my ex-husband, because they are not able to access their intuition. And that was a joke. But I just think that being able to have some ability with your emotions, contact with your emotions. And listen, as I said, I attempted to deny my emotions, and it worked for a while, but we become dead inside when we do that.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. So I want to ask, when did you kind of step into this? When did you figure this out? What was the journey from mysteriousness to actually honing in on it?
Well, I was so fortunate. I had a mentor starting at age 13, and she taught me things about metaphysics. I was pretty closed to what she was telling me because, as I said, that was the period where I was denying my emotions and trying to emulate Spock from Star Trek. But it still was there in my head, what she told me. So later, I was able to study metaphysics and then spirituality. One of the turning points was when I was 17. I opened the burger place where I worked, and my boss came in. And let me back up a second. I ordered a book from the Scholastic Book Club on palm reading when I was in 4th grade. And I attempted to learn palm reading from this book, but I couldn't memorize it or remember it. So by the time I was a teenager, I had this party trick where I drank too much and I read palms as a joke. I thought it was hilarious. And so I opened the burger place and my boss said, "What did you do last night?" I said, "I drank too much and I read palms." He said, "Well, read my palms." I said, "No, no, no, it's a joke. I don't really read palms." He said, "No, read my palms." I said, "No, it's a joke." And he stuck his palms out and he said, "Read my palms." So I took one look at his palms and I said, I don't read palms. And I pushed his hands away. He said, "You saw something. What did you see?" I said, "I saw cameras on a workbench. Who would keep their cameras on a workbench?" And he went dead white. He said, "My hobby is making cameras and I have cameras all over my workbench at home." So that was the first really powerful moment when I saw something and had it confirmed. And it went on and on. In fact, I met my husband and I offered to read his palms. I just met this guy. I didn't know he'd become my husband. And I took one look at his palms and I said, "You will have one child and that one child will change your life. You may have other children, but this first child will change your life." Well, I didn't know that I ended up bearing that child. So we married young and we had 2 kids. We did something extraordinary. We made a family, but we're no longer married. So we gave it a shot.
It's always good to give it a shot. You got to
Yes.
give it a shot. That's great. So, in your journey, from where you were to where you are now, and honing in on this gift that you have been given, what is your process for when you are confronted with a challenge or a struggle? Does this gift give you the ability to be able to process differently than the way people who don't necessarily work the same way?
Absolutely. Your listeners who know dogs, let's say, or they know cats, and they have someone over and the person pats. Don't you love it if somebody pats a cat on the head? Cats hate it. They show everything about their body language to show you that they hate it. Dogs don't much like it either. And you can see as clear as day what's going on, but your guest does not see that. That's the way life looks to me. I see more. And in fact, I have a new program. It's called Body Love. I would love your listeners to learn about it, because it's all the reasons why your body has agreed to carry weight for you. In other words, I will teach you and those who attend the program how to access their intuition regarding their relationships, especially, but also their habits and health, to see what is contributing to them not having a body they feel like they can love right now. And I want everyone to enjoy their bodies. My own experience with weight going up and down, I see now that I was often protecting myself with weight. And I think many of us do that. We're not able to perceive the covert or overt aggression in our world. So I just feel that accessing our intuition, developing our intuition, allows this world to reveal itself more and more to us, to whatever extent we're able to. And I think most people have the gift of intuition. Intuition is just one way our mind works. So if you're driving away from the house and you go, wait, okay, I have my cell phone, I have my laptop, I have this, that, and the next thing, you're using logic. But if you drive away from the house and go, I forgot my cell phone, that's intuition. It's the aha moment. It just is not linear or sequential. It doesn't build to that point. And the one thing that I would want your listeners to know is that the intuition is not rational. So if you're walking down the street and you get the feeling you should walk on the other side of the street, there will be no reason for it. You will not be able to rationalize your move. But I would suggest you walk on the other side of the street, because Wile E. Coyote might have one of those anvils ready at the top of the building, and you don't want to find out after it's too late that you should have in fact crossed to the other side of the street.
This is actually funny because I was just having a conversation with my fiance and my son probably like 2 weeks ago. And for some reason, one of us was joking about zombies. And I go, I really do for real get these weird vibrations of feeling like today's the day when we're going to get attacked by zombies. And I'm like, if you ever see me running out for a quick errand and I have tennis shoes on, not my normal slip-on shoes, it's because I had a feeling that something was going to happen where I needed my shoes to run in. It just comes over me where I just get this weird vibration. Now, obviously, zombies haven't come yet, so maybe not an intuitive over here, but it is interesting how we're joking about it. We're like, maybe walk on the other side of the street because there might be an anvil. But yeah, I mean, we get these weird vibrations within us, and it is important to follow that.
I'd like to unpack that a little bit. So one of the things is that I think our preoccupation with zombies is because there are a lot of people who have become very, very dead inside, and they show up like zombies. The other reason I think that there is a collective concern about zombies is because of if there's an opioid epidemic, there is also a methamphetamine epidemic, because a lot of people who use opioids are going to use methamphetamine to stay awake. And I have a loved one who is now in recovery, but going through what I went through with that person, they were the equivalent of a zombie many, many times. So being prepared for an onslaught from zombies is actually not a bad idea. The other thing is that sometimes we are being warned about a threat or a way to avoid a threat. It doesn't have to be all terror stricken, but I want you to also consider that once you start paying attention, your guides could be teaching you. You know, my guides used to say, get a jacket. I'd be like, why do I need a jacket? And then I'd get the jacket and I never use the jacket. And they'd be like, you know, we want you to take orders, bitch. Sorry, but so what good are these insights? What good are these intuitive moments if we're not paying attention and willing to act on them?
Yes.
Act on them.
Yes, that makes me feel better. Yes, 100. And also, I think about that as far as like, I also don't know if, because obviously I assume that I walk more confident, more structured, more quickly when I'm in gym shoes or tennis shoes than I do when I'm wearing like flip-flops, right? When you're wearing flip-flops, you're more of just kind of meandering around. When you have gym shoes on or tennis shoes, you're more of like kind of on a flow. So not knowing intuitively if I walked a little quicker across the road and did it get hit, or if I, walked a little more confidently that day, so didn't get abducted by a rapist. Like, you really don't know,
right,
what that one little change of listening to your intuition actually did.
That's a really, really, really good point. And if you've ever had something really peculiar happen out of the blue, you could not have predicted that, but your intuition may have. So one of the things I find fascinating is when I work with my clients, I receive intuitive information. And the way I think of it is that I might be stepping outside of time to see, feel, sense, know a stream of events. And I may not know whether I'm looking at the current moment, the past, or the future. And this is my excuse for not always being punctual, Sabrina, is that I spend a lot of time outside of time. But I think it's important for us to realize that time is a way our brain processes what is happening. And it may be that time is what's called an artifact of our perception. It may be less real than we think. So all of you who are punctual out there, nanny, nanny, boo, boo. But anyway, understanding that you don't necessarily know why you're putting tennies on this day and not another day. And we just we're kind of stuck going with the flow once we open the door, right? It's just once you start to pay attention to your intuition. I remember one day I had just bought a whole bunch of pens and I didn't need the whole bunch. And I was going out to visit, to get together with two girlfriends for a drink. I didn't know them real well. And I just grabbed two pens at the last minute. And when I got there, my superego was saying, Fran, this is stupid. Don't give them pens. But I did. I came up to the table and I put out two pens for each of them toward them. And they looked at each other and they looked at me and they said, that's perfect. We're both pen freaks. So start to enjoy your intuition. It's your gift.
Oh, that is so interesting. You know, as you were stepping into this, what are some limiting beliefs that you kind of had to put by the wayside in order to really authentically become, you know, Fran Gallaher?
You know, so many. I was at 13, I had braces, Coke bottle lenses, hair that hung down. I was skinny. I had no confidence whatsoever. And my best friend was very pretty, the all-American strawberry blonde girl with the freckles across her nose and cheeks. And people would say to her, oh, you're so pretty. And they'd turn to me and say, and you have such a great personality. So I was really coming from behind and believing that I was less than in so many ways. I was so fortunate because I was asked to be a faculty member for something called the Program in Intuition. And it was a high-end program designed to teach physicians and business leaders intuition. I taught the head of the VA, the head of Centers for Disease Control, the head of Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, all kinds of heavy hitters. And I was part of a star-studded faculty. And so people would see me and they would see other faculty members, and I would tell them something that I thought was completely out of the blue. And they'd say, oh yeah, so-and-so told me that. And the head of the program was the late Leland Kaiser. And he was extraordinary. And I would be told so often that I was telling people what Lee had told them, that it gave me affirmation. So when I teach intuition, I have people set up their own, what I jokingly call their psychic friends network, so that they can trade intuitive insights with one another. One time, one of my friends called me up and said, I interviewed for a job. Would you take a look at it? And by the way, I'm very visual, so I'll use visual words, but everybody can have any of the external senses as internal senses. Anyway, she said, would you take a look at it? I said, I looked at it and I went, you're not going to get the job, but you're going to get the job. And she said, yeah, I know. That's what I see. And what happened was she did not get the job. They gave it to a young man. He had the job for 2 weeks and said, I'm not right for this job, but I think you should create this position for me, which opened up the original position. So they hired her.
Are you serious right now?
I am.
Wow.
The intuition is so another quick story. In the program in intuition, I was introduced to a man who was the CEO of a large healthcare firm. And oh man, I wanted to impress him. And so I met him and I was flooded with the taste, smell, sight, knowledge of bazooka bubblegum. And I was more blonde then than I am now. And I sure as hell did not want to be a blonde talking about bubblegum, but I was stuck because when I'm flooded with that, I can't get past it. So I said, why would I be tasting, smelling, sensing bazooka bubblegum? And he said, well, we have bowls of it on our executive team meeting tables when we meet. And I said, who chose that flavor? Why not double bubble? He named the person, and I got a whole download of a fraud and embezzlement scheme that this person was concocting, as well as sexual harassment in the workplace. And I said, take a look at this person's cell phone records and you'll find the evidence. The CEO did, found the evidence, and was able to stop the whole thing in its tracks. So I just want people to know that this is really powerful stuff.
That's so interesting. I want to ask, what is the difference between having a gut feeling and intuition?
There is no difference. So the intuition, if you, I wish I knew the statistics, but there are actually more brain chemicals in the gut than there are in the brain. There are more of the neurotransmitters in the gut. We also have neurotransmitters in the heart. So the intuition can work in the brain, it can work in the heart, and it can work in the gut. Now, I jokingly say it also can work in the feet because sometimes you just feel yourself walking out of somewhere. It's just time to go. I did that at a Super Bowl party. I just walked out and I guess I was done. I thought later, I did that thing again, didn't I? So it's very important for us to get in touch with our bodies because the intuition can arise in any of those places. The gut is going to be more of a center for fear and the feeling that things are not quite right. The heart is going to be, of course, more about relationships, more about love. And the head is going to be a little more of the knowing. But it all works. It all works.
That's interesting that feet is fear because that's my shoes.
Well, feet is, that's not necessarily fear. The gut is more fear, but yeah, feet is the ability to make your choice by continuing to include yourself in a situation or take yourself out of a situation.
Okay, so gut is more fear, not like definitive, but more fear.
Or unease.
Heart is more relationships. And then what is head?
That's the knowing. No. So you can have all the senses can be inner senses. So I'm highly visual, but I saw with these eyes as a child. I don't have that ability now. Figures will be almost like holograms for me when, let's say you came to see me, Sabrina, and your guides revealed themselves behind you. They will be kind of shadowy for me to see. But sometimes I will experience knowing as if I saw something, but I didn't see it. I just knew it. So the senses can cross over. For some reason, I'm missing that word right now, but it's where you can see music, taste a location, let's say, that the senses can cross.
What would be your advice for females who have a hard time listening to their intuition? You hear this all the time with people who get into relationships or just bad decisions, and they say this thing where like, I just have a really hard time listening to that thing. Like I just keep doing the same thing over and over again. I get this feeling and then I ignore it and I don't listen to it. How do we start trusting ourselves to start listening to whatever that is, that voice?
Well, I really feel like those people should work with me because I'm going to cause them to respect themselves and develop feedback loops. So when you get a feeling, a sense, a knowing, a seeing, anything like that, you need to pay attention, see what happens next, and then feed that back to know. So let's say you're walking down the street You get the idea to move to the other side of the street and you don't. And just then a garage door opens and somebody backs out and almost hits you. Then you can go, okay, I should have crossed to the other side of the street. Be gentle with yourself, but just notice the next time I have that feeling, let me see, what did that feel like? Maybe it felt like all of a sudden I was focusing on my tennis shoes and I felt like it was a good idea that I had them on. Whatever it might be, whether it's a positive result or a negative result. I teach intuition using 3 prompts. And the first one is, what do I have energy for? And this is the energy of the physical body, whether you feel like you can stop at the store or not on the way home, for instance. Or one time my dog wouldn't let me go out of the house, and he normally would have been racing to get out, but he wouldn't budge. And the next moment, lightning struck just outside the front door. So he probably saved my life. So the next time my dog, which had never happened again, but if he had decided he didn't want to move, I would respect it. So it's just, we've got, especially women, we've got to respect our intuition, because I'm afraid not too many people are going, other than me and you now, are going to encourage people to pay attention to their intuition.
What are the other ones? You said 1, 2, 3. What's 2 and 3?
2 is, what is trying to happen here? So let's say you walk into a room. You want to feel into, sense into, know into the emotional substrate in the room. You know what it's like when you walk into a situation where someone was just yelling at someone else. And you know what's trying to happen here is that somebody's trying to beat down somebody verbally. So you might say, bye. Or what is trying to happen here? Let's say you're in a meeting at work and Bob Smith is conducting the meeting, and you know, never ask Bob Smith a question because you'll be here all day. And so you're hoping, don't anybody ask him a question. Don't anybody ask him a question. And somebody asks him a question and Bob Smith is off. So we want to start looking at what is trying to happen here. And the third one is, this is about using wisdom, and it is, if I take action, with what intention and what purpose? So you can think about, what are you trying to accomplish in this situation that you would take any action? Because if the situation is headed over a cliff, you do not want to help it along.
Makes sense. Yeah, 100%. Well, I so love all of this. Completely makes sense. And I so appreciate you being here. I want to give a quick shout out real fast to those watching live. Thank you for being here, for hanging out with us. If you're watching us on the replay, make sure that you hashtag replay wherever you're watching us at, so we can send you some love. Also, wherever you are watching us at, if you could share us on whatever platform you're on, so we can get more eyes and more ears on this episode, that would be fantastic. But I want to ask, Fran, who do you help? And how do people reach you if they're resonating with what you're saying?
Oh, thank you. I mainly work with executives and people who want to move to that executive level, because when I assist someone who has a lot of impact in the world, I'm actually assisting all those people they are impacting. So I get to assist more people. Right now, my program Body Love is for people who would like to have their body be more in a state they can love. And those are people who have been battling with traditional forms of weight loss using diet and exercise, let's say. And what I'm doing is going below that level to figure out what is actually going on. If you go to my website, reallyflourish.com, and go to Body Love, you can click on that. And for your listeners, Sabrina, it's now, the Body Love is normally $11.99. Right now it is $4.99 in pre-sale. And for your listeners, just for 24 hours, starting at the beginning of this podcast, it's $3.99. So I'd love to have some people in the program. I'll tell you, that will also develop your intuition. I do also have a free discovery call if somebody wants to schedule with me there. And I am a texter. So if someone texts me, my phone number, I'm even going to give it here, 303-722-5115. And I'm so ready to assist women who are ready to listen to themselves, take these senses and begin to unpack what they're experiencing so that they can access their intuition.
Make sure I have this right here. I have 303-722-5115.
That's right. And I'm also going to put my next masterclass for Body Love. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. I'm going to put my next masterclass into the Her Nation Facebook group, if I may. It's a free masterclass on February 28th.
I love it. We love free gifts. So thank you so much for that.
And that 30-minute session is a free gift if people want to book with me. We can have a lot of fun in 30 minutes.
I love it. Where do you hang out with, or where do you hang out predominantly on social media? Where can people find you if they just kind of want to dip in and get to know you a little bit better?
LinkedIn, Facebook. Must admit, I'm not as much on Facebook, but I am sometimes, and LinkedIn. And now I'm in your Facebook group, so I'll be visiting there. Thank you. Yeah. I love, and TikTok. I'm a budding TikTok star, according to me.
I love that. Why do you do what you do?
Because the world of intuition can be, not always, but can be obvious to me. And I perceive solutions just right under the surface. I perceive information. I've had to learn not to be curious about people, because otherwise I'll get information I cannot share. But the world reveals itself to me, and I can give people such important, useful information. And that's my life purpose, to share that information.
And what are your big dreams for your business?
To give me the life I want, and in turn to give my clients the lives they desire, to make life easier and smoother. I just want to tell people right now, the next time you have some commitment, perceive the date and imagine that you can tell whether it is filled with energy, like a little square on the calendar. Does it have energy in it, or is it draining away? Because sometimes we'll look at a date, I'll look at it in my mind, and the life has drained out of it. And I know that party won't happen, or that event won't happen. So start doing that and be a little woo-woo, please, because you were born with it.
That is great. Well, listen, I so appreciate you being here and taking some time of your day to hang out, relax, share some information with us, and teach us just a little bit about this intuitive world. For those of you that were here listening live or on the replay and you resonate with all the goodness that Fran shared, make sure to shoot her a text message at 303-722-5115. Check her out on her website at reallyflourish.com. It is also clickable in the description. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Some people are afraid of their intuition. They may have had some warnings in their lives and then perceived something that was going to happen that was negative, and in fact that did. Please don't live in fear because of that. Develop your intuition. It was a nod from God. It was a nudge from God. And I think most of us have a good foundation in goodness. And I don't think that we need to be concerned about the darkness that is often portrayed by Hollywood when it comes to intuition. It ain't so, okay?
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it. This is the Her Version podcast. This community is expanding every single day, and it's filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. If you have a story to share, check me out at hernation.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I am so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others. As always, do